When doubt creeps into your heart, the worst thing isn't the lie itself, but those who pat you on the shoulder with a hypocritical smile, assuring you that everything is fine, while behind your back they've already drawn a knife. That's exactly what happened in my life. My name is Brian. I'm 35 years old and I work in customer support, spending early mornings and late evenings solving other people's problems. Not a genius, of course, but not a fool either. I've been married to Emily for 6 years, a charming and calm yoga instructor, the kind who says in any situation, it's okay, just breathe deeper. We lived in Austin, renting a small 2-bedroom apartment where there were no kids, no dog, but there was some semblance of stability, fragile but palpable. Every morning I went to work and she went to teach yoga. Evenings were spent having dinner, watching TV shows, and sometimes strolling under the moonlight. Nothing extraordinary, but I believed that this was what real life was all about. No drama, no fireworks, just silence and peace. Sincere peace, or so I thought. Emily's friend Jessica had been a part of our lives from the beginning. A hairdresser, cheerful and always full of funny stories. She had been my wife's best friend since high school. For me, Jess was more of a fixture than a close person. She often came to our house for dinner, joined us for movie marathons, and complained about her unsuccessful dates. I knew she was divorced and that relationships had never worked out in her life. I even felt a little sorry for her, as if she was just warming herself by the fire of our happy marriage, unable to create her own hearth. The first warning sign sounded quietly, almost a whisper. Emily started staying late at the yoga studio. Clients want private sessions, she explained. Many have neck and back pain. Sure, I nodded. Make money while you can, and I was genuinely happy for her, sincerely wishing her success. But after a couple of weeks, something changed. She started coming home late, immediately went to shower, and her phone was always with her, even in the bathroom. New lingerie, but not the comfortable sets that give a feeling of home comfort. Rather, it was lingerie, as if it came from the pages of a glossy magazine, not intended for quiet evenings by the fireplace. It definitely wasn't lingerie for just lounging at home. Every lacy curve, every silk ribbon seemed to scream about something more than everyday routine. One day, giving in to a sudden impulse, I asked, "Are we okay?" She laughed loudly, as if my question was a ridiculous joke. "Of course, everything is fine. What makes you think that?" Her eyes sparkled, but something in that laughter seemed strained, as if she was carefully hiding something. That's when Jessica came into our lives. I don't know how she sensed that I was drifting away, but as soon as I became a little distant, she started calling. Her calls were like quiet music that gradually fills the entire space. "Hi, Brian, how are you?" "Fine." "You're not hurting Emily, are you?" "Why would I?" "It's just that she's a little worried lately. She says you've become kind of distant. What if it seems to me that something is going on?" "Brian, please, you're imagining things. I know Em, she's loyal. She's just a little overwhelmed right now." And I listened. Her words sounded convincing, like the voice of reason trying to calm raging passions. Because when someone calmly tells you that you're paranoid, when they sound so gentle, so sympathetic, you start to doubt yourself, in your suspicions, in your feelings, in the very reality of what's happening. Another 2 weeks passed. Time dragged on painfully slowly, as if someone was deliberately slowing down the hands of the clock. I started noticing Jessica at our house much more often. She appeared with one reason or another, as if casually weaving herself into our lives. Brought vegan cookies, carefully baked according to a new recipe, hung out at our place while Emily was taking a shower. Her presence became increasingly intrusive, as if she was trying to fill all the empty space. One day, she even stayed overnight. Said she had a fight with a client, didn't want to take a cab home in that state. I offered her the couch. "Thank you, Brian. You're one of the kindest people I know." I smiled. I wanted to believe that. I wanted to be kind, to be someone who can be relied on, who will always come to the rescue. It turns out I was just blind. Blind to what was happening right under my nose, blinded by my naivety and trust. The turning point came one morning. I woke up, and Emily wasn't there. Her absence felt especially acute, as if the light had suddenly gone out in the room. Went into the kitchen. Jessica was standing by the window, making coffee. There was something domestic in her movements, something that made me wary. She was wearing a t-shirt that I didn't recognize. Did Emily leave? Yes, early to a client. And you? I'll stay here for a bit. Couldn't sleep. My head is a mess. I nodded, sat down at the table. Her words sounded like an excuse, but I didn't say anything. She handed me a mug. Relax, you're imagining things. What makes you think that? I can see you're tense. How do you know there's something to be tense about? She smiled. Her smile was kind of strange, as if she knew something I didn't. Because I know Emily, she would never. I didn't let her finish. I woke up, went into the bathroom feeling an inexplicable anxiety gripping me. I was shaking as if from a chill, although it was warm in the room. That's when I made a decision that I thought would clarify the situation. If my suspicions turn out to be true, I would rather know about it, no matter how painful that truth may be. If it turns out to be false, I will learn not to destroy trust with unfounded suspicions, like a shadow haunting me. I ordered a camera, tiny and inconspicuous, small, almost toy-like. It shouldn't attract attention. I installed it behind the books on the shelf in the bedroom, carefully masking it among the volumes. Turned it on, making sure it was recording. Then told Emily that I needed to go on a business trip for the weekend, although it was just a carefully crafted lie. I didn't go anywhere despite my words. I stayed like a lurking hunter, patiently waiting for the moment of truth, and waited for the masks to fall, exposing the true faces hidden behind the facade. And they fell, like leaves from autumn trees, revealing an unexpected picture. Betrayal is not always about physical infidelity, as banal as it may sound. It's about the voice inside that whispers, relax, you're imagining things, like a snake coiling around your mind. And it turns out that it is this voice that lies the most, leading you away from the truth. I hardly slept that night, like a guard dog protecting its home. Checked the broadcast every hour, hoping and fearing at the same time. The camera was working properly, recording every moment. At first, nothing happened, just silence and anticipation. Emily did leave in the morning, as planned. 2 yoga classes, as she said, although now I didn't know what to believe. I no longer knew what was true and what was false, as if I had lost my way in a labyrinth of mirrors. In the evening, someone else entered the apartment, and this visit turned all my ideas upside down. At first, I didn't recognize her, as if a veil of doubt clouded my vision. It was Jessica, whom we were familiar with. She brought groceries, as if she was going to cook dinner, took off her coat, as if she felt at home here. Put on Emily's slippers, the ones I once bought as a gift, putting my love and care into them. Poured a glass of wine, as if it was her usual evening ritual, sat in the living room, casually lounging on the couch. Behaved as if she lived here, as if this apartment was her home too. And in a sense, it was, because she occupied a special place in Emily's heart. An hour and a half later, Emily returned, like a wanderer returning from a long journey. With a backpack on her shoulders, in a tracksuit, she looked relaxed and happy, laughed as if sharing some secret with Jessica. They hugged, like 2 halves of the same whole finding each other. Jessica gently kissed her on the cheek, expressing her affection. Then, on the lips, and this kiss was long and sensual, long as if time had stopped, and familiar, as if they had done it many times before. I watched the screen as if hypnotized by a snake. Disbelief squeezed my throat, depriving me of the power of speech. But it was them, and there was no point in denying it. This is not a mistake, not an edit, but reality, cruel and merciless. Just the truth, naked and ruthless. They kissed as if they had done it hundreds of times, as if it was their usual ritual. Routinely, as if it was perfectly normal, as if it was part of their lives. They went into the bedroom, as if into their own world, closed to outsiders. The camera continued to record, capturing their every gesture, every movement. And I couldn't look away, as if spellbound by the tragic beauty of what was happening. Jessica pulled off her shirt, as if freeing herself from a burden. Emily unbuttoned her bra, as if opening her heart. Laughter, like music, sounded in the room, filling it with life. Whispers, like secret confessions, flew from their lips. Kisses like promises sealed their union. Then, bodies intertwined in the embrace of passion like two flames merged into one. My blanket, which I used to cover myself on cold nights, now served as their bed. My sheets, on which I dreamed of a future with Emily, now witnessed her betrayal. At that moment, I couldn't see all the details. The angle was bad, and much escaped my gaze. However, as it turned out, more was not required. I was shaking, as if in a fever, despite the fact that it was warm in the room. Unable to bear the sight any longer, I interrupted the broadcast, as if severing the thread connecting me to this nightmare. Closing the laptop, I buried my face in my hands, trying to hide from the overwhelming emotions. But the pain stemmed not so much from what I had seen, but from the realization that the closest person, the one who had always assured me of her support, was involved in this betrayal. As you will find out later, this pain was unbearable. Words that once sounded so soothing echoed in my memory. You just need to relax. Emily loves you. You're thinking too much. I'm always here, Brian. Now these phrases seemed like poisonous arrows shot into my back. I paced the room like a caged beast, clenching my fists until my knuckles ached. However, this is just the beginning, and I increasingly realized that I didn't know what I was feeling: anger, shame, heartbreak, or just emptiness. An hour later, as if possessed, I looked again. And what did I see? They were lying in bed, gently embracing each other. Jessica was tenderly running her fingers through Emily's hair, and she in turn was telling something animatedly, laughing. They were happy and free, like birds in the sky. And me? I was sitting alone on the other side of town, in a place where the shadow of betrayal had not yet penetrated. However, this is just the beginning, and I increasingly realized that I felt as if someone had poured a bucket of dirt into my soul and whispered, "Here, live with this." The next morning, I reviewed the recording again, each frame etched into my memory like a brand, and then I realized that simply deleting it would not be enough. I wasn't going to take revenge, I wasn't going to post it online, but I had to let them know that I knew the truth. No drama, no hysterics, just dinner, a quiet conversation, and the screen. Let them see, let them watch. No excuses, no buts, only the truth, their truth. I texted Emily, "Let's have dinner together. I need to talk. No accusations, just you, me, and Jessica, tonight at home." She replied almost instantly, "Okay, I'll be back from practice around 5. I'll tell Jessica." I put the laptop on the table and connected it to the TV. Then I carefully trimmed the recording, leaving only what mattered. No explicit scenes, just the facts. Kisses, touches, whispers. Hand in hand, right on my bed. That's what appeared before my eyes. At exactly 6 in the evening, they entered the apartment, laughing and chatting animatedly about some trivial nonsense, as if nothing had happened. I stood in the kitchen, mechanically taking a sip of water, trying to calm the storm inside. "Hi, Brian," Jessica chirped cheerfully, her voice ringing with falsehood. "Hi," I replied evenly, trying not to betray my feelings. "Sit down, in the living room." They exchanged brief glances, but obediently went into the room, as if sensing something was wrong. I pressed the play button. Reality came to life on the screen. Our bedroom. Jessica. Emily. A passionate kiss. 10 seconds, and silence hung in the room as if time had stopped. I didn't say a word, just stood there, watching their reaction. Emily's face turned deathly pale as if she had seen a ghost. Jessica's lips were tightly compressed into a thin line, betraying her inner tension. Finally, I spoke, and bitterness rang in my voice. "Jess, you assured me that I was imagining things, that Emily loves me, that I'm going crazy." She lowered her eyes, unable to meet my gaze. "So, maybe now you'll explain to me what this was?" When you trust two of the closest people, and they both betray you, you lose not just trust. You lose your support, the meaning of life, the very faith in human relationships. But then you find the strength to get up and leave because they are not worth falling for. When the video ended, there was a deathly silence in the room, as if everything alive had frozen. I stared at them intently. They sat as if paralyzed, unable to move. Emily, white as chalk, seemed as if she would crumble into dust any moment. Jessica, on the verge of exploding, but restraining herself with all her might, as if afraid to release a tangle of lies and hypocrisy. So, nothing to say? I asked sarcastically, turning to Jessica. She didn't look at me, only muttered something indistinct. It's not what you think. I laughed bitterly, and only pain and disappointment could be heard in my laughter. Of course, kisses, the bed, caresses. I probably just mistook it for deep friendship, right? Emily intervened in the conversation. Brian, I didn't want things to turn out this way. Didn't want what, Emily? I interrupted her, not letting her finish. To betray me or to get caught? She looked away, unable to look me in the eye. Jessica was silent as if she had swallowed water. I could have understood a lot, I said, and weariness sounded in my voice. Confusion, a mistake, even infidelity, but what I can't forgive. I turned to Jessica and my gaze was full of contempt. Is you, whispering in my ear that I'm paranoid and at the same time sleeping with my wife. I will never forgive that. I stood up, making it clear that the conversation was over. You both have 1 hour. Leave. I don't care where you go. Leave the keys in Jack's bowl. Emily got up but didn't come closer. I messed everything up, she whispered, and despair could be heard in her voice, as if she realized the full weight of what had happened. No, you two messed it up. Together, came the answer, like a sentence, emphasizing the shared responsibility for the ruined relationship. I went out onto the balcony, and the fresh air seemed to ease the oppressive atmosphere a little, while they were packing their things, in silence that pressed on their shoulders like a heavy load. 30 minutes later, the door slammed shut, the sound echoed throughout the house, marking the end of an entire era. They left, leaving behind only emptiness and memories. Silence reigned in the house, but it was not a peaceful silence. It was heavy, like a premonition of something inevitable. Every wall screamed with memories, and every object seemed like a blow to the heart. I tore off the bedding, as if trying to get rid of the past, changed the sheets to fresh ones, wiped the camera, as if erasing evidence of past intimacy, turned off the phone, cutting myself off from the outside world, from possible reminders. Then I lay down on the couch, seeking at least some comfort in its embrace, and for the first time in weeks, I fell asleep, plunging into oblivion, as if trying to escape from reality. A month passed, filled with gray weekdays and painful reflections. I moved, rented a small apartment a few blocks from my old house, started walking to work, needed movement to distract my thoughts from painful memories. Never late, trying to be inconspicuous, barely spoke to colleagues as if afraid to betray my feelings. But I started going to the gym as if trying to rebuild my life. Not to build muscle, just to exhaust myself to the limit so that there was no strength left for reflection. So as not to think at night when the silence is especially merciless. And then one day, I received a message from Emily. I know we messed everything up and there seems to be no way back. But if you ever want to understand, I'm ready to talk, she wrote, as if offering a key to unraveling what had happened. I didn't answer, although her words touched a nerve. I deleted the message as if getting rid of an obsessive thought. 2 weeks later, I was sitting alone in the cafeteria, absorbed in my thoughts, when Lauren, a colleague with whom I was barely acquainted, approached me as if sensing my state. Hi, Brian. Are you okay? You seem very distant, she asked with sincere concern in her voice. I smiled weakly, trying to hide my pain. Just adjusting to a new reality, I replied, trying to give my words some optimism. She chuckled, as if understanding that there was much more hidden behind this phrase. If you ever need it, I know a pizza place that can heal a broken soul. Sometimes cheese helps more than talking, she said, as if offering a kind of therapy. That evening we went there. There were no sparks, harbingers of new love, but I felt something that I hadn't felt in months. Safety, as if I had found a quiet haven in a raging sea. A sense of closeness to someone, without masks, without games, without hidden motives. Now it's been 3 months. Time is relentlessly moving forward, healing wounds. I live alone, enjoying relative freedom and independence. I work, trying to be useful, I read, immersing myself in other worlds. I train, keeping myself in shape. Sometimes I remember that night, the video that turned my life upside down, the silence that pressed on my shoulders, Emily's face full of despair and regret, and suddenly I realize the pain has receded. But there was a line left, clear as a summer day. As you will find out later, it will forever change my perception of the world. Just because someone says they are with you doesn't mean it's true. These are just words devoid of true meaning. Just because someone smiles doesn't mean they are honest. However, this is only the beginning. Darkness can hide behind a smile. But if you stop believing in yourself, they will destroy you, slowly but surely, quietly, like the whisper of the wind at night, smiling like angels bringing destruction, calling it love, and you won't believe what happens next. Now I know, betrayal's not a knife in the back. No, it's something more sophisticated. It's a soft hand on your shoulder, warm and comforting, while the other hand pulls the floor out from under your feet, ruthlessly and suddenly. And I no longer offer my shoulder to anyone who hides a knife behind their back. I have learned to see the truth behind the masks.